I wanted to begin this series with everyone's favorite part of eating Tex-Mex, the chips and salsa. I'm going to make a couple of classic Tex-Mex salsas, tomato, jalapeno ranch, and verde. While I'm at it, I'm going to make some homemade tortilla chips as well. Let's start with those tortilla chips. These are super simple to make, you just need some masa. I'll usually go with maseca because it's widely available where I live, but honestly, just use whatever masa you can find. So you need to mix a heavy pinch of salt into 2 cups of masa. To that, I add about 1.5 cups of water and mix it in by hand. Hand is important here because you can really feel the texture of it. You need it to be not sticky because then it's going to stick to your press, but you don't want it to be too dry either. You may need about a tablespoon or so extra. This one definitely did. You can see it's kind of sandy. When it starts to come together, we need to put a cover on it and let it rest for about an hour. This is key. It's going to let the masa hydrate and give our tortillas a better texture in the end. So it's been about an hour and we're going to prep where we cook our tortillas. I add a little bit of oil to this pan and wipe it out and put it on medium heat. I also like a plate lined with a clean kitchen towel. That way we've got somewhere to put our tortillas when they're done. So grab your tortilla press and we're going to use a Ziploc bag to line this. I tried to use a knife to cut the bag, but quickly learned that's not the way to go. Just use scissors. Grab enough dough to roll it into golf ball sized balls, and then put it in the middle of your press and press down on it. You don't need a lot of force here, but you do want it to be thin enough so they're crispy when fried. Okay, so for cooking, you're going to throw a tortilla in the pan and let it sit on that first side till you see some bubbles forming, maybe about a minute or so. Once you see those bubbles, you can actually flip it and let it sit for about another minute. You're looking for a little bit of browning, a little bit of charring, but we don't need too much because these are going to fry, so they're going to get darker anyways. Before storing them, always be sure to eat one. If you've never had fresh tortillas like this, it kind of just tastes like really good popcorn. It's kind of nutty and delicious. Nothing at all really like the dry ones you get from the store. We do need to put these in the fridge though, because they have too much moisture to fry. It's day 2, which means it's time for some salsas. We're going to start off with what I think is everyone's favorite, which is the Jalapeno Ranch. It also is the easiest because everything just goes into a food processor. We're going to start with 2 jalapenos. I actually don't de-seed these. I think if you get rid of the seeds in this, it's just never going to be hot enough. Also, be sure to mix the bowl like you see me do here. For the liquids, we need 1/2 cup of sour cream and 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. Add just a splash of whole milk, maybe like a tablespoon or so, and then a couple of crushed cloves of garlic. You'll see one of these cloves is a little older, so there's actually a weird thing that'll happen where the middle will start to sprout. You'll see this little green sort of sprouty type thing come out of it. Those are really bitter if left in, so go ahead and take those out. Our aim here is to cram as much flavor as possible into this, so we need some garlic powder, some onion powder, and a lot of pepper. Good heavy pinch of salt as well. Once everything's in, go ahead and turn it on and just blend it till everything's put together. Here you'll see my wife taste testing it. We actually wanted it a little hotter, so I added 1/2 of a serrano. And then I can't eat cilantro because I've got that weird soapy thing. So this is actually just some parsley. At this point, you're basically good to go. Like I said, this one's really simple, the easiest, but also the biggest crowd pleaser. Get that into the fridge for at least an hour. The pepper flavor is going to get much stronger as it goes on, so it just gets better the longer it sits. Now we can get started on my favorite salsa, the tomatillo. You're going to need to take the paper off of about 8 tomatillos for this. You'll notice that once the paper's off, there's actually a really sticky layer underneath that we need to wash off as well. All right, so all the skins are removed. We're going to give them a good wash and a wipe down with paper towel. So these are all cleaned and ready to go. We're going to simmer those in a pot of water alongside 2 jalapenos and 2 cloves of crushed garlic. That's going to only need to simmer for about like 15 minutes or so, basically until everything changes color. While that's going on, we're going to finely mince an onion. Don't want to cook this. We need that little bit of like spicy bite of a raw onion. So you'll see me just finely dicing this here. Make a couple slits up and through the middle of the onion and then dice it. The truth about cutting onions like this is it's very helpful, but honestly, we need it finer than this anyways. So once we've got a pile of it, I'm just going to run my knife through it a lot more. This makes me cry so much, but it's going to give us a better product in the end. It's been maybe 12 minutes and our vegetables have changed colors, so we can go ahead and strain them from the water and put them into the bowl of our food processor. I will, however, take the jalapenos out and cut off the tops, just so we don't get any of the woody stem in it. I definitely forgot to put the blade in before the vegetables, so I had to smush it in to make it work. That took me longer to realize than I'd like to admit. Okay, now that that's situated, we can give this a blend. Texturally, we're looking for something pretty smooth, but with a little bit of chunks. If you can still see the seeds of the tomatillos and the jalapenos, you're in a good spot. This wasn't quite spicy enough for me, so I actually added another half of a serrano. A quick blend to make sure the serrano is all chopped up, and then we'll go ahead and throw in another handful of our chopped parsley. And that's about it. It's basically done. It's ready to go. We've got that chopped onion up from earlier that I'm going to add maybe like a tablespoon or so in there. It's just nice to have a little bit of a bite, something crunchy in there with all the smoothness going on. You'll see everything's been really simple so far. It's mostly just putting stuff in the food processor. For this last one, I could have done another kind of food process smooth type salsa, but I wanted actually a little bit chunkier. My wife loves that like pico de gallo texture, so I wanted to make this last tomato salsa a bit fresher and a bit more like a pico de gallo. So for this, having good tomatoes is going to be incredibly important. It's the majority of what you're tasting, so you want to get at least a good tasting tomato. These are just some heirloom ones that I found at our grocery store, but find whatever's tastiest and best in season. So you'll see me running my knife through this. We want to get this very, very finely diced. I was shooting for something in between like a pico and just a fully blended salsa. So I actually ran my knife through these once more to get them a little bit finer. We're going to do that to the other half of the tomato as well. To that, we're going to add a big pinch of salt. Tomatoes just need a good amount. We're also going to add maybe a tablespoon or two of that finely diced onion from earlier. All right, because the ones we've made earlier were a little bit spicier, I actually took the seeds out of the jalapenos on this. This is a great salsa to eyeball, but a good ratio to go off of is half a jalapeno and a quarter of an onion for every tomato that goes in. And then for a little bit more of a punch, I did want to add a little bit of the serrano in there as well. Again, maybe like half of the serrano, very, very finely minced. You don't want to bite into a big chunk of that. We need a little bit of lime juice to brighten everything up, so we're going to take the side off of one of those and just squeeze it right in. We also want some herbs. Again, cilantro is probably the herb of choice, but I just can't get past the taste of copper or soap, so I'm using parsley again. And this one's basically done. Like you can see, I didn't want it to be massively chunky, so you couldn't put it onto a tortilla chip, but I also wanted some texture to this, not just a smooth, like, paste. These all definitely benefit from a good amount of time in the fridge, so the earlier you can make these in the day, the better. And now on to the final step, the tortilla chips. I've got a Dutch oven filled halfway with oil, sitting over about a medium flame. We're aiming for 350 degrees. You can drop your tortillas in and leave them for about 5 to 6 minutes. You're looking for them to get golden brown, but definitely not too dark. You notice a burnt taste if they get really, really brown. You'll work through all your chips in batches, making sure to salt them as soon as they come out of the fryer. You'll probably want to put in a little more salt than you actually think. They can definitely take more than I put on here. And there you have it. Your chips are done. You're going to want to get your salsa into some bowls because the chips are definitely best when they're hot and fresh. And now to compare the chips we made to the store-bought ones.
All right, so this one's first. This is homemade corn tortillas, fried. They're so crunchy. Probably too crunchy. All right, these are store-bought tortillas. These just like feel crispier. I don't know. I think these look better. Yeah. Well, these are from a bag that you may recognize, but they don't sponsor. Dang. It's sad how just good these are. They're so much saltier. Try this red salsa. Alright, Jalapeno Ranch. This is the one. This is the golden goose. This is what everybody wants. This comes to the table. This is what you want to eat. It's so good. I mean, like, too much work. You're not worth it. Make these, buy these, make this. Definitely make that.
As a wrap-up thought, I really think making homemade corn tortillas is worth it on its own, but if you're trying to turn them into tortilla chips, I would say just buy corn tortillas from a store and fry those. The product you get is better and much, much easier. I definitely think all three salsas are worth making. The Jalapeno Ranch is always going to be a favorite, and Verde to me is just super delicious. Knowing how to make a red salsa is always great too. I plan on continuing to make more videos, so if you're interested in keeping up to date with that, go ahead and subscribe and you'll know when more comes out. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it.